Welcome to the press conference of the first session of the 13th National People's Congress. The topic today is the legislative work of NPC, and today it's our pleasure to have with us 6 members of the NPC, the Vice Chairperson of Internal and Judicial Affairs Committee, the member of Education, Science, Culture and Public Health Committee, Mr. Wu Heng, the member of Environment Protection and Resources Conservation Committee, Cai Xia, and Mr. Wang Chao-in and Mr. Xu Anbiao, Legislative Affairs Commission of the Standing Committee of National People's Congress. And they will answer your questions about legislative work of the NPC. Now, please ask your questions. The journalist, the lady on the 5th row.
Thank you. I'm from China National Radio. My question concerns the environment. In these days, we see smog again, but it is a fact that we had fewer smoggy days in Beijing last winter. We had more blue skies. Have legislative bodies contributed to this improvement? And also, the report to the 19th Party Congress has stressed the importance of taking tough steps to prevent and control pollution. How do you plan to support such steps through legislative work? Thank you.
请李彩霞委员回答这个问题。
各位记者朋友，大家上午好。非常感谢问这个问题。
This question will be addressed to Li Caixia. Good morning, journalist friends, and thank you for your question. Well, the 12th National People's Congress is committed to implement decisions made at the 19th Party's Congress of China National Congress. We stepped up efforts on building the ecological conservation. And there are 3 aspects of our work. First, in terms of the laws and regulations we enacted during the 12th National People's Congress, we made plans, and 18 laws and regulations are about environmental protection, accounting for more than 18% of total laws enacted. And we emphasize on comprehensive, systemic legislative work, combining environmental protection and people's livelihood to build a comprehensive pollution prevention system. For example, we revised many laws related to environmental protection. For example, the water pollution laws, action plans against air pollution, and also laws preventing soil pollution. So in terms of the numbers of laws and regulations we enacted, you can see our commitment. And the 12th National Congress Standing Committee paid special attention to issues that is in the heart of the people. For example, we paid great attention to people's concern about clean air and safe drinking water. We also emphasized on water and air pollution prevention and improved our legislative work around those areas. And also we increased the punishment. And in terms of the format of our work, so we now are more solution-oriented, and also we're more concerned about locality. Today is a smoggy day, but you should also notice that the results we have achieved over the years against pollution. And stipulated in our work report, in those severely polluted areas, the smog, the PM 2.5 indicator was brought down by more than 50%. And in 13 cities around Tianjin, Beijing, and Hebei region, compared to 2013, the air pollution has brought down by 40%. So you can see the effective work we've done. Now, smog has come back, but it's less severe than before. As you know, previous years, we have PM 2.5 over the chart or off the chart to 200, 300, or even higher. Today, the PM 2.5 is around 130. So we can see the improvement. On the flip side, this cannot be addressed completely overnight. It takes time. They also prove the great decision made by the Central Committee of the Party, surrounded by upheld by the President Xi Jinping. So right now, pollution prevention is seen as one of the 3 priorities of our central government. Next question. The gentleman over there.
我们也知道，过去5年来，就是我们国家的发展取得了历史性的成就，党和国家的事业也发生了历史性变革。那对应这样的历史性成就和历史性变革，我想问，过去5年的立法工作，那又取得了怎么样的一个成就？另外的话，就是适应国家总体布局和战略布局的这个需要的话，过去5年的立法又有哪一些鲜明的特点？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm from Outlook Weekly. In the past 5 years, our country made historical achievements and went through historical changes. So for the legislative bodies, what are the main achievements over the past 5 years? What are the features of the legislative work in supporting the holistic plans and strategies for national development? Thank you.
请许安标主任回答这个问题。
好，很高兴回答你的问题。正如你所说呀。
And this question is addressed to Mr. Xu. I'm happy to answer your question. As you mentioned, legislative work, together with our social and economic development, has made great strides in the past 5 years. Mr. Zhang Dejiang made a report to the Standing Committee of the NPC yesterday afternoon, and he has summarized the highlights of our work in the past 5 years. Led by the Central Committee, the 12th National People's Congress has closely followed our plan and made great strides. The work has been effective, efficient, timely bound, and great results have been achieved in social, economic, political, cultural, ecological aspects. Many laws were enacted, and we have safeguarded our constitution, and our national security law system has been built, and we have made great strides in the improvements on our civil laws, and we have some numbers to show you. By the end of February, the 12th NPC and its Standing Committee has made 25 new laws. After our law system was made, 25 new laws were enacted, and we revised 127 laws. We passed significant decisions on significant issues 64 times, and we made 9 legal interpretations. So in total, now we have 263 laws in effect. So surrounded by our Chinese constitution, our judicial system has been improved. As you asked, what are the highlights and features of our legislative work in the past 5 years? And I think I can answer your question in 3 aspects. First, we have firmly uphold the leadership of our central government. And the leadership of the Communist Party can be seen throughout our legislative work and procedures. For example, in improving our key projects and legislation work in terms of the plans making and the revision of plans and about important legal issues, we made reports to the Central Committee of the party. And as for the revision of our budget, national law, cyberspace security law, all those important issues, we have made reports to the party, Central Party Committee. And secondly, we have to combine the reform and legislative work. Through revising laws and regulations, we need to deepen reforms in different sectors and aspects, and let the legislative work lead and support reform further. In the past 5 years, according to legal procedures, we have made 21 decisions in terms of free trade zone, land reform in rural area, judicial reform, etc. And we have revised laws in bundles for 15 times. The third feature is that we need to make our lawmaking process more democratic, and we need to do more quality work. We have to improve the mechanism of our lawmaking, and the landmark result is the local authority of legislation. So the local legislative body has increased 214 in number. In the past, only 80 local legislative bodies. Now we have added more than 200 those legislative bodies on local level. And we have improved the coordinated legislative work and to emphasize the role of NPC in lawmaking. And we have established working groups and compiled law cases, in total 70 cases.
Which is on the rise compared with previous levels. It is also how to bring the legislative function of the NPC to the full. For 4 years, we have seen deliberation taking place. We have seen revision of the Constitution being deliberated, and also for the supervision law this time. And for opinions from the grassroots level, they can be passed on to the legislature of the country. Opinions are solicited from the civil society. We've also seen that there are a series of undergoings in terms of laws being revisioned and being deliberated. There are 81 law items being announced. We have also established the advisory system for legislation. We have also established major interest adjustment, consultation effort, and we have also tried to introduce third-party evaluation in our legislative effort to make laws in a scientific, democratic way has been facilitated. That's my answer. Next question.
谢谢主持人。光明日报记者提
The
问。
lady, the second row.
我国文化方面的法律 数量一直较少，是中国特色社会主义法律体系的一块短板。但是我们也注意到，这2年全国人大常委会加快了文化立法的步伐，通过了电影产业促进法、公共文化服务保障法，还有公共图书馆法等多部文化类的法律。我们想请介绍一下相关的情况。然后我们还想了解一下全国人大常委会在文化立法上将有哪些新动作，思路是什么？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Guangming Daily. The number of laws on cultural matters is small in China. This has been a short plank in the socialist system of laws with Chinese characteristics. But we have also noticed that in the last couple of years, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress has stepped up efforts on legislation in cultural affairs, adopting various laws, including the law on promotion of the film industry, law on guarantee for public cultural services, and law on public libraries. Could you share with us more information on cultural legislation? And also, what legislative moves will the NPC Standing Committee make on the cultural front? What are the considerations behind these moves? Thank you.
请吴恒副主任委员回答你这个问题。高兴咱们这位记者啊，对我们国家文化
Vice Chairperson Wu Heng, please answer the question. Thank you so much for paying attention to our cultural legislation. I think through your question, we can tell that you know every detail concerning this aspect since the 18th National Party's Congress. Our NPC, under the leadership of President Xi Jinping, has been moving forward with cultural legislation in an unprecedented pace. In the 12th NPC-SC, right before its establishment, in our existing judicial system, there were 3.5 laws in the cultural sector. We have the law of artifact preservation, we have the copyright law, we also have intangible cultural heritage law. So some people think that the archive law is not so much a cultural law. So that's the reason why we say there are 3.5 laws in this regard. Our NPC-SC has been moving very fast in terms of promoting cultural laws such as public library law and the law on promotion of the movie industry of China. We shall say that during the past 5 years, the Standing Committee of NPC has revised archive law and the law on artifact preservation. I also like to mention, by the way, the Science, Education, Culture Commission of the 12th National People's Congress has also made its effort in cultural legislation. Indeed, there are some difficulties. It is not only the job of the government, it also concerns the interests and the rights of citizens. It also relates to social organizations and civil society. As we all know, culture is not just about expressing your behavior. It is also about education. It's about leading our society towards more positivity. So it has a very special attribute under the context of Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics. In China's reform and opening up, the cultural exchange between China and foreign countries has been reflected through different dimensions in our society. That's why we need to enact a law that can be inclusive, that can be outreaching, so that all the most reachable public cultural services can be provided. And of course that means difficulties. We need to dig into many problems and there are some hurdles, of course. As for the Standing Committee of the 12th National Parties Congress, we have seen a lot of effort made by our Cultural Committee. I want to make a conclusion of the results. Standing Committee has been following the Central Party Committee's strategy of promoting cultural sector in China. It has been working very hard on the cultural law legislation, including all the revisions we have mentioned for archive law and artifact preservation law, and we have also made the promotion law on movie industry of China, as well as the security law of public library and public cultural services. We encourage social involvement, and we have also encouraged the optimization of services. We believe that our effort is of great importance to people's enrichment of their cultural life. We all know that a series of decisions were made by the Central Committee of the party, and the promotional law on the cultural sector has been put into the 5-year schedule of Standing Committee of National People's Congress. There are also revisions of the copyright law, and there are also revision of the artifact preservation law in the pipeline. We believe that these are paid close attention by our civil society. Next question.
监察法，那么监察法生效以后，是否会与现行的人民检察院组织法相冲突？那么要如何解决法律之间的这个关系？以及要如何解决监察委员会与检察院这个职权方面的关系？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Procuratorate Daily. We know that this year's NPC session will deliberate and adopt the supervision law. Will this law, after entering into force, contradict the existing organic law of the People's Procuratorate? How will you coordinate the legislative work on these two laws, and how will these laws strike the right balance between supervisory commissions and the People's Procuratorate in terms of powers and functions?
请王胜明副总任委员回答你这个问题。
谢谢记者的提问。
Vice Chairperson Wang Shengming, please answer the question. Thank you for the question. To deepen our reform of the supervisory system in China is a major political institutional reform. This reform involves the adjustment of our procuratorate. So the power of a procuratorate in China, does it still have some of the existing powers? We have to refer to the supervision law. There are already some transitional approach. So this time, after the supervision law is passed, NPC-SC will continue to deliberate on the revision of the procuratorate law of China, and there are also going to be relevant adjustments to the criminal law of China. Only in that way can we make sure that the laws in our legal system can coexist, and we can guarantee that the power and function of our procuratorate bodies can be guaranteed, and they can carry on their effort smoothly.
央视新闻移动网的记者，我们都知道12届全国人大常委会提出民法典编纂2步走的工作思路， 先制定民法总则，再编纂各分编，争取到2020年形成统一的民法典。那么现在已经是2018年了，各分编的编纂工作进展如何？编纂难度最大的会是哪一分编？那么今年哪一分编会最先提交常委会审议呢？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with CCTV. My question concerns the Civil Code. The Standing Committee of the 12th NPC put forth the two-step approach to compiling the Civil Code, which is to compile the general provisions first and then compile other chapters. The compilation is expected to be completed by the end of 2020. Now is 2018. Could you brief us on the status of the compilation of individual chapters? Which chapter is the most difficult to compile? And which chapter will be the first submitted to the Standing Committee this year for deliberation? Thank you.
请王超英副主任回答您这个问题。
谢谢。这个编纂民法典呢？
Wang Chaoying, please answer the question. So talking about Civil Code, it was in the 18th, first session of the 18th National Party's Congress, and it was already mentioned by our journalist. It was already rectified by the Central Committee of the party, and we are going to have a two-step approach for the Civil Code. As for all the other chapters of the Civil Code, they are already undergoing. So the compilation of the other chapters is not about making brand new laws. It's about combing through the existing laws and make it organized. It also has to adapt to the current situation and has to go through revision and adjustments. There are also concerns to be addressed from the civil society. So now there are property issues, there are violation issues, there are marriage issues and heritage issues. So from the time schedule, for the second half of this year, we're going to submit the draft to the Standing Committee of NPC for deliberation. As for the next step of deliberation, it is going to be constructed in a staged way, together with the Civil Code. All these other chapters, they will form the Civil Code of China. If there are some difficult parts, it's very hard for us to judge. There are multiple questions to be answered from different perspectives, so we shall not say which one is more challenging or which one is easier to be dealt with. I don't think there is going to be such a question. Thank you for your attention of the effort on compilation of the Civil Code.
谢谢主持人，我是法制晚报看法新闻记者。市场经济就是法治经济，但从目前来看，电信诈骗、电影票房注水、个人信息遭到肆意的收集和售卖，这类经济乱象依然丛生。请问，财经委员会在经济领域立法、适应经济社会发展方面做了哪些努力？成效如何？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Legal Evening News. We understand that market economy is underpinned by rule of law, but we see many problems like telecommunications scam, fake box office, and rampant collection and sales of private information. My question is, what efforts have been made by the Financial and Economic Affairs Committee to ensure that legislation on economic matters can adapt to economic and social development? And how effective are these efforts? Thank you.
请吴热图副主任委员回答您这个问题。
好，就刚才这位记者提出的内容，我想重点
Mr.
的
Wu
介
to
绍3
please
个方
answer
面
the
的情
question.
况。第一是关于制定
Well, I'd like to answer questions in 3 aspects. First, as for revision and enactment of laws, in the 5-year plan of the 12th NPC, laws that are under the charge of Financial Economic Affairs Committees are 33 and counting for 1/3 of the total number. Over the 5 years, under the leadership of the NPC and its standing committee, and we firmly agrees with and follows the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era, and we made great strides on improving the quality of lawmaking. In the past 5 years, 17 laws were reviewed and passed. 2 laws, which are also of everyone's concern, are the e-commerce law and security law, which are actually at stage 2 of deliberation. And the rest 14 laws are in the drafting process. The Standing Committee of the 12th NPC suggested that most of the work of revising and drafting those laws should be transferred to the 13th NPC now. And in terms of authority of lawmaking, it's also part of our legislative work in order to support the reform. The Standing Committee chooses to use authorization as a format of lawmaking. For example, the Shanghai Free Trade Zone its purpose is to use Shanghai as a trial project to accumulate experience for the future free trade. So we have to change and revise the current laws. That's why the Standing Committee timely authorized Shanghai municipality to adjust and change the laws in Shanghai accordingly. And committees in this regard, regarding the range of authorization and the date of authorization, had reached consensus. And in the Financial and Economic Affairs Committee, for many times, carried out surveys in 11 cities in China, preparing for the future revision of laws. Thirdly, which is also a very important area, taxation. Reform on taxation is an important decision made by the central government, and it's an important mission of ours. Out of the 18 taxes in China, 6 have been revised. In the past 5 years, the 12th NPC reviewed the tax of environmental protection, tax of tobacco, and the income tax of corporates. And the rest 12 taxes are still subject to the ordinance of State Council. In the future, they will be made and incorporated into laws. And we noticed that in the advice on the plans this year, someone suggested that the consumption tax and other 5 taxes should be included in the lawmaking plan of this year. And we urge the lawmaking bodies should follow up on those works.
我是北京青年报北青网的记者。最近几年，我们注意到全国连续发生了多起和垃圾有关的大案，比如说震惊全国的垃圾跨省倾倒太湖西山案。很多人都说，跨省倾倒垃圾以及偷倒垃圾现象越来越多的现象背后，所反映的是垃圾围城的现实。不知道人大常委会有没有注意到这一现象？未来将做如何打算？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Beijing News Daily. In recent years, we have seen several major cases related to waste. For example, the case of illegal cross-provincial waste dumping in Taihu Lake, which shocked the whole country. Some people argue that this increasing number of illegal waste dumping cases, particularly that involves several provinces, suggests an inconvenient truth that cities have produced too much waste. Has the NPC Standing Committee noticed this situation? What is the plan to address this problem?
请李彩霞委员回答您这个问题。
谢谢这位记者的问题啊。随着中国经济的快速发展，人们生活水平
This is your question. Thank you for your question. As Chinese economic development proceeds, people's livelihood has been improved, and now people tend to shop online more, and you can order food to your doorstep. However, this also caused some waste issues. So, sooner or later, we have to face this issue. First of all, improper treatment of waste will not just pollute the city, but also pollute soil, water, and the ocean, and further damage people's health. So this is a very severe issue. It's also a concern of President Xi Jinping. As you know, President Xi has made some comments on the waste treatment and categorizations. This is actually a worldwide challenge, which was also a headache of the developed countries in the past, and an issue still facing many countries until today. That's why some richer countries would sell their waste to poorer countries, including us. So that's another issue about waste imports. It takes systemic effort to tackle this issue. We need some mechanism, some system in place. That's why the Standing Committee of the NPC needs to release an overarching design and through legislative work to solve this issue. Awareness raising is also a very important part. That's why we need the help of the media to help us to let everyone know that they have a responsibility in cutting their waste. Technology is also needed. Fourth, we hope that through policy and lawmaking, we can improve the resource allocation and usage, improve the efficiency of resources, and lead effective and conservation of resources through better policy. So, actually, the Standing Committee of NPC also revised laws regarding resources usage. President Xi once stressed that the comprehensive and recycle of resources is an important step for China. That's why we need to address this issue through our legislative work. This is also our current effort. Thank you.
主持人，我是南方家南方都市报记者。近年来，全国人大的备案审查工作从幕后走向台前。 我们很关注公众就违法的红头文件提出的备案审查建议有没有落到实处，在备案审查中发现的问题又是如何处理的？今后会不会动用撤销等手段来增加备案审查的刚性？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Southern Metropolis Daily. In recent years, record examination by the NPC has got greater publicity. The public requested for record examination on some official documents that run counter to the law. Has examination of such documents been conducted? What problems have been fixed through record examination? And how were problems handled after being identified? In the future, will those documents that run counter to the law be repelled? How was rigidity of the procedures be reflected?
请许安标副主任回答您这个问题。
谢谢你对这个问题的关注，这也是法治建设过程中啊。
Mr. Xu Anbiao will answer this question. Thank you for your concern. This issue has caught some traction. Record examination is an important part of upholding our constitution. So there are two parts to it. One is recording, the other is examination. Governmental agencies need to report and save their documents according to the laws and regulations. And the upper level government agency has the authority to examine those records submitted. There are two ways to initiate this process. One is active examination. So after those records are being submitted, they will be reviewed and examined. The second format is by application. So citizens are entitled to apply for those examination. So this is second initiation process. Since the beginning of the 12th NPC, we have paid great attention to this mechanism. We will strictly carry out the decision made by the Central Party Committee. And now, active examinations includes two aspects. First, for judicial interpretation, governmental reports and records will be examined once submitted. And secondly, we'll also choose some key laws and key documents to review because there are too many of those documents, so we have to prioritize our work. And secondly, applications submitted by citizens, we will also grant their application.
So that some issues in the legal interpretation has been solved by such effort. There is a basic situation. Since 12th National Party's Congress, by the end of last year, our Legislative Commission has received 1,527 pieces of opinions from our civil society, and 1,206 of them were involved in the recording examination category. That's 79%. As for examination for administrative provisions, that is 2%, 24 in total. And for regional law, that is 65.5%. As for legal interpretation, there is 1,160. That is a relatively high proportion. that sends us important messages. In December 2017, for the very first time, NPC has listened to the report of the recording examination effort. We have seen more opinions are emerging from the civil society. Only January, February of 2018, we have received 4,000 pieces of opinions from the civil society. We are currently looking at the opinions. Some of them are just to show gratitude, while some of them are sincere suggestions and advice. We have seen very fast growth, and the total amount on the rise, and more categories of daily life is involved. We have seen for legal system unification, for daily life interests, we have done a comb through and we found several aspects. The first one is with regard to market economy, especially when it comes to fair competition. The second is about administrative penalties, and the third is about labor and marriage. For instance, 2016, we had received a lot of opinions on the common debt of the married couple from the legal interpretation, and we have also seen some opinions in terms of the administrative penalties, such as putting people in custody. So we have seen that actually our effort showcases how sophisticated our society has become in terms of economic diameter. As for the opinions and suggestions we have received from the citizens, we have a standardized procedure. We need to receive them one by one and follow up, have investigations. If there are some findings concerning some problems in terms of countering the current law or constitution, we are going to take concrete actions to deal with them. And for those items under our jurisdiction, we will continue to study and work on them. And for those that are not under our jurisdiction at the National People's Congress Standing Committee, then we are going to send them to relevant departments responsible. As for the questions raised, suggestions made, if they are indeed making sense, then we will have a further study. As for some highly intricate issues, we need to have symposiums, we need to have consultation sessions to work at them. And for some of the problems, we also need to send notice to the enacting body of such provisions or regulations, so that they can help us to understand what is the rationale behind such a provision. Based on that, we come up with an opinion of dealing with this issue, so that through communication we can solve this problem. Just now you raised a very interesting point. In the future record examination, will there be cancellation as one of the approaches to solve problems, so that we can have more effectiveness in record examination? In China, there is a big political advantage for things to be done. The central government in China has a relatively higher power. and it's more prone for us to create consensus in the process of record examination. And for all this kind of troubleshooting, debugging, that show how we are advantageous in our system. Well, when it comes to institutional design, we also have relevant arrangements. If the provisions are not allowed by the enacting body to cancel, then our standing committee will have the jurisdiction of having overwriting with cancellation of that provision after proper discussion. So next question, lady in the first row.
我们知道今年的5月8号是汶川地震10周年。那么在当年的这个灾后重建过程当中，其实还有一场所谓的信任力危机，就是中国红十字会被爆出用1300万元购买了1000顶的天价帐篷，那么也由此引发了一场巨大的信任力危机。而且就是在不久之后，应该是2011年的时候，又有一起公共事件，就是郭美美炫富事件。那这个事件呢，更是把这个中国红十字会的这个信任、这个公信力的问题呢，推到了风口浪尖上。我们注意到啊，就是在去年的时候，全国人大常委会对这个红十字法进行了这个修订。那么这个法律呢，于去年的5月8日正式实施了。我们的问题就是在应对这个社会公共热点事件引发的这个信任力危机方面，立法究竟会起到多么大的作用？那么这部法律对这个提高咱们红十字会的履职能力有哪些具体的规定？谢谢。
I'm with Legal Daily. 10 years ago, a major earthquake happened in Wenchuan. In the same year, a credibility crisis also happened in the reconstruction process. It was exposed that the Red Cross Society of China used 13 million yuan to buy 1,000 tents. This exposure triggered a trust crisis. 3 years after that, there was the Guomeimei scandal, which triggered huge concern, public concern on the credibility of the Red Cross Society of China. We know the revised Red Cross Society law entered into force on May the 8th last year. So how effective will the legislation be in addressing credibility issues of public organizations? Could you share with us the specific provisions in this law that aim to improve the Red Cross Society's credibility? Thank you.
请吴恒副主任委员回答您这个问题。好，谢谢这位记者。这个提到了这个中国红十字
Mr. Wu Heng.
事业方面的问题。
Thank you for the question.
那么
Just mentioned Red Cross Society of China. Indeed, Standing Committee of the 12th National Party's Congress has revised the law on Red Cross Society of China. It was actually submitted for deliberation by the Education, Science, Culture, and Public Health Committee of NPC. We have done a lot of preliminary effort to make this happen. In 2014, the Education, Science, Culture, and the Public Health Committee took the responsibility of revision of the Red Cross Society Law of China. After a couple of years' efforts, and with all the existing problems popping up in our mind, we have spent a chunk of our time. Finally, we submitted for deliberation in 2016 after the Standing Committee has its deliberation for several times. In February last year, it was passed at the 26th meeting of the Standing Committee. I'd also like to talk about the legislative effort of the law on Red Cross Society of China would have been changed. So in the revise the law, there are something reflected. First, the supervisory institutional effort of the Red Cross Society of China has been enhanced. From all the previous scandals, we do recognize the importance of picking up the supervision on this society. It has been reflected through the lines in the provisions to further enhance supervision of the Red Cross Society. And second, we have clarified the legal person status of the Red Cross Society of China at the different levels. When it is conducting some actions in our society, it should be playing its legal role, so its legal identity has been clarified. Third is that with technological development, the Red Cross Society has been baffled with more responsibilities, such as marrow transplant and organ transplant donations. This is going to be one of the priorities of this Red Cross Society of China. It was also mentioned in the revision there will be independent third-party bodies to have auditing on the donations received and where that money go. So previously, it was questioned by the civil society that the Red Cross Society of China wasn't very transparent in terms of the donations received and the purposes of allocation of the funding. It was also clarified that the Council Committee, Supervisors Committee, and the Council, how they can be elected and put into function. It was also mentioned that a supervisory effort should be further. After the revision of this law, we can look at the efficacy in this way. First, we still believe that Red Cross Society effort is a very important component of Chinese socialism with Chinese characteristics. It is very important humanitarian bridge between the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese Red Cross Society and the civil society of China. That's a positioning and definition of the Red Cross Society of China. Its roles and functions have been completed, and supervision has been pumped up, and there is also a provision about compliance and competence, so that the public credibility of the Red Cross Society of China can be boosted. We sincerely hope that we can create a better legal environment for the effort.
Thank you. I'm with China Daily. In February this year, the 33rd session of the Standing Committee of the 12th NPC decided to extend the authorization for reform of the stock issuance registration system to year 2020. Revision of the securities law and extension of this authorization are hot topics. So my question is, what is the status of the work on revising the securities law? Is there a timetable? Thank you.
请乌热图副总任委员回答您这个问题。
健全多层次的资本市场体系，
Mr. Wu Letu will answer
推
this
行
question.
股票注册发行制改革呢，是
To safeguard multi-level market system and to implement stock issuance registration system as decision made by the 33rd plenum of the 12th NPC. According to the plan, the finance Financial and Economic Affairs Committee since 2013 initiated the drafting of security law. In April 2015, we submitted the draft for initial deliberation to the Standing Committee. During the survey and deliberation process, different parties regarding implementing and reform of the stock issuance registration system are very positive about the reform, but the opinion differ in terms of the timetable and effective date. As you remember, in 2015, huge fluctuation was noticed in the stock market. So that was the worst time one can find for this registration system. In order to ensure smooth carrying out of the system, we proposed that before the taking effect of the security law, we need to finish the reform on stock issuance registration first. That's why we authorized State Council in the reform of stock issuance registration. The authorization of security law should be changed and extended to 2 years. This February, Mr. Liu Shiyu reported to the Standing Committee about the reform on stock issuance registration. He also pointed out that in the development of Chinese capital market, there are many aspects in conflict with the registration system, so more work and revision will be needed. According to his suggestion, we decided to extend the authorization period. Throughout deliberation, we decided to extend it to February 29, 2020. Of course, stock issuance registration is only one of the aspects in the security laws revision. There are also issues like building multi-level capital market, supervision of security market, protection of the rights of investors. In April 2017, the draft of security law was submitted to the Standing Committee for the second deliberation. Going forward, we will watch closely of the reform of stock issuance registration, and we will learn on the job, accumulate experience for the passing of the revised security law. We notice this has caught the eyes of the media. That's why we want to disclose the information here. And I'd like to take the time to add something. I'd like to call for all the friends, all the journalists present today, that today is the last day for the 12th NPC Standing Committee tenure. So tomorrow we will elect the new deputies of the 13th Financial and Economic Affairs Committee. So here, on behalf of all staff at the committee, I would like to extend our gratitude to our media friends for your support in the past 5 years. I also hope to have your support in the future. Thank you.
好，谢谢
Next
主持人
question.。
我是成都商报的记者。党的18大以来，我国的司法体制改革工作取得了重大进展，但我们发现，在部分地区 依然存在着行政干预司法的情况，有些地方的话还是十分严重的。那么请问，在立法方面，全国人大常委会做了哪些工作来保障法官依法独立公正的来行使审判权？下一步还有哪些工作安排？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with Chengdu Economic Daily. Since the 18th Party Congress, reform of the judicial system has made remarkable headways. However, we still see in some places the phenomenon of administrative power interfering in judicial processes. What has the NPC Standing Committee done to facilitate the judicial system reform, particularly to ensure that judges can exercise their judicial authority independently and impartially? Are there any plans for the next stage? Thank you.
请王超英副主任回答您这个问题。
谢谢。这个
Mr. Wang Chaoying will answer this
党的
question.
18大以来，特别是18届
Thank you.
3中4中全会，以习近平同志为核心的党中央
Since the 18th Party Congress, especially during the 33rd and 34th plenum of the 18th Party Congress, President Xi has made important decisions and comments on judicial reform. In deepening judicial reform within our efforts to improve the rule of law and reforms in all aspects has great significance. In the past 5 years, as you know, great result has been achieved. You all know all those reforms, all the results, the exclusion of illegal evidence. So the progress on judicial reform is very important for upholding social justice, supporting the trust in judicial bodies. So we will strictly follow the decision made by the central government, and we will continue to step efforts in the legislation work and annulment, enactment, and revision of laws. So we have done some work as follows. First of all, strengthen and improve our legal system. We just passed the 9th amendment of our criminal law, for example, and to try to cut down the death penalty. Further protection of citizen rights. We also improved the regulations regarding interfering with the trial process, record examination system, cases cross-provincial. We also established and improved the public defender system, and we also improved the national bar examination. So this is about improvement on laws and regulation. We also made some authorization and decisions. Standing committee reviewed the decision on establishing intellectual property right courts in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. We also made some trial projects regarding juries. And provide some legal foundations for local courts. Standing committee reviewed and heard reports from those trial projects and demonstration zones, for example. The public defender trial projects, and now we have revised our civil laws according to results of the trial projects. And for example, about the jury pilot project, we now have incorporated the results into the related regulations. So the work has been done in 3 aspects. So all these play an important role in accelerating our judicial reform. As you mentioned, there's still some cases where the administrative authority interfere with the judicial process. And regarding establishing intellectual property rights courts and about public defender cases, all those decisions are made to prevent interference of administrative branch in judicial process. So far, it's been very good. So these are the work that are being done. So the NPC Standing Committee will continue to study and research on the Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characters in a new era, and to do our parts for legislative work. And we suggested important items include to start to draft the jury system, and also to summarize on the trial project about improving and revising our judicial law and revising the organization law of the Supreme People's Court and Supreme People's Procuratorate. And we also need to revise the law of justice and the law of courts. So we believe the new deputies of standing committees will continue our existing efforts and build on them.
谢谢主持人，我是中国青年报中青在线记者。最近几年发生在校园里的这个校园欺凌和暴力事件时有发生，但同时我们也注意到，我国现行法律当中对这个校园欺凌和暴力事件还没有相关的条款做出一些明确的规定。那么正是因为这样的情况呢，在很多发生这样情况的时候，有一些选择了私了这样的情况，这对青少年权益的保护非常不利。那么在教育界、法律界，甚至包括很多的普通公众，对这个事情有很多的建议，有的甚至表达了不满。那么我想请问一下，全国人大在这方面有没有相关的考虑和计划？2018年会不会有一些相关的一些进展？谢谢。
Thank you. I'm with China News Daily. In recent years, we have seen incidents of bullying in school or school violence in media reports from time to time. However, so far, no effective law in China has clear provisions concerning school violence. Due to this lack of clear provisions, many cases had to be settled in private. This is not good for protection of rights of young generations. And the legal and educational communities, and even the general public, have expressed dissatisfaction with this problem. So my question is, has the NPC taken this matter into account in its legislative work? Is it possible to see new legislation on this matter introduced in 2018?
请王世明副主任委员回答您这个问题。
校园暴力或者校园欺凌啊，
Mr. Wang
各地
Shengming,
都有发生。
talking about campus violence or bullying, it occurs across China, and sometimes it can be rather serious. Standing Committee of NPC and the relevant departments at the State Council attached great importance to addressing this issue. It has also been followed closely by the civil society. If something becomes a hot button, then it's not far from the resolvement of this issue. The Internal Judicial Affairs Committee of NPC recommended revision of law on juvenile delinquency and prevention law on juvenile delinquency. To a certain degree, we sincerely would like to make our recommendations for the resolvement of these issues by making legislative effort here. Please also follow closely with our new updates.
各位好，我是香港卫视记者。那么我们已经发现，中国在保护环境方面这一方面呢，已经非常的关注。但是呢，在动物保护方面呢，我们还是以那些濒危的野生动物保护法为主。那么呢，近年来我们发现有一些虐待动物事件时有发生，但是我们只能是从道德层面来批判那些事情。那么，其实我相信你们也会认同这个观点哈，就是人和动物和谐相处是一个国家和睦，一个社会充满爱的表现。那么，请问中国会不会考虑出台相关的立法？谢谢。
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm with Hong Kong TV. I know that China pays a lot of attention to protecting environment, but its work on protecting animals and wildlife mainly focus on the endangered species. In recent years, we have seen many cases of abuse of animals, but we could only deal with such cases from an ethical or moral perspective. We believe that the harmonious coexistence of human beings and animals reflects the civility and the love of a society. So my question is, does the NPC have any plan on advancing legislation on this matter in the future? Thank you.
请王超英副主任回答您这个问题。
Mr. Wang Chaoying.
您刚才提到，我们有一部野生动物保护法。
As mentioned by you, there is a law on wildlife protection in China. It was revised by the Standing Committee of this NPC. From the perspective of harmonious coexistence of human and nature, our existing law has made very good stipulation in terms of preserving the habitats of wildlife. It has been further addressed in the revision, especially through procedure facilitation and optimization. In the process of revising this law, animal welfare has been highlighted or has been requested to be highlighted in the law. We will pay due attention. There is another law, which is the Husbandry Law. As for pariah animals, their living environment, there are also relevant provisions. It is required of the owner of farms to pay due attention to the animal welfare of those raised. Corresponding standards also needs to be established. So you can see reflection in those two laws. Maybe there's something that we can make it better, which is for pet. It has also been requested to be put into legislation for the protection of pets. There are also some localities, some regional provisions and regulations already on this, but from the national perspective, we haven't seen the finalization of such a legislation is still in the middle of discussion and deliberation. No major consensus has been built, so it takes some time for us to further work on that. But from the perspective of being a moral member of the society and from the perspective of animal welfare, I believe that any animal raiser has the responsibility and obligation to protect the animals they raise. For any behaviors such as discarding animals or torturing animals, they should be regarded as immoral behaviors by our civil society. But when it comes to the legal responsibilities, we still need to have further studies, consultations, to build public consensus. And that's the timing we can move into legislation. And we also need to consider what will be the format of the legislation. Thank you. Next question.
主持人，我是中国外文局北京周报社的记者。我的问题是，我国首次提请审议《基本医疗卫生与健康促进法》的草案。该法是卫生领域第一部基础性综合性的法律。草案呢也提出要重视全科医生的培养和使用等民众聚焦的问题。请问人大在改善民生方面做出的立法举措都有哪些？谢谢。
I'm with Beijing News. Thank you. I'm from Beijing Review. We know that the first law on promoting general public's health and reform of the medical system has been submitted for deliberation. This is the first kind of such law, and which contains provisions on general practitioners. My question is, what are the highlights in the legislative work of the NPC on improving the general public's welfare? Thank you.
请许安标副总任回答您这个问题。
谢谢你对这个问题的这个关注。这个基本医疗卫生和健康促进法。
Thank you for your concern on this issue. Talking about the basic hygiene and health service legislation, it is actually submitted for deliberation by the Education, Science, Culture and Public Health Committee. Wu Heng has been involved deeply in the process of legislating, so we have seen that the members of the Standing Committee has spoken highly of the legislation draft. As for the naming, for the category of jurisdiction, and for the classification of roles and functions of relevant departments, there are a lot of opinions provided by the standing member of NPC. There will also be public opinion solicitation on the website of NPC. We believe that we have seen some consensus to follow up. We will take thorough consideration of the opinions from different dimensions so that we can make sure that the public suits us as much as possible. We have seen that legislation in improving people's living standard has been proceeding very well. We have seen a lot of civil laws, and we have seen the special equipment safety law, we have seen domestic violence law, we have seen food safety law revisions. So people's life and their property rights have been protected further. We've also seen revision of the family planning law, and also just now it was mentioned the Red Cross Society of China law, and also there are laws on promoting job creation and entrepreneurship, as well as laws on revision of tertiary education of China, and there are also consumer protection law, which is creating a very sound consumer environment. With the strategies of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China being fully implemented in the next stage, and with our joint effort, we're going to make sure people in China can have a better life. So just now, from the questions, I heard something which is GP, general physician. So I'd like to thank the journalist for following very closely with the healthcare reform, which has been pushed forward by the State Council for a few years. I'd like to talk about it. As for the basic healthcare law, it was led by the Education, Science, Culture, and Public Health Committee of the National People's Congress. We have seen a lot of effort being made by this committee. They have taken references of other countries' practices in reforming their own healthcare system. We had symposiums with international experts because this kind of healthcare reform is really a tricky one for every country in the world. We are also collecting public opinions in China. Some of the efficacies we have been able to consolidate our experiences from them. So I can be very responsible and say this. There is a very important principle in this law, which is the successful practices and some of the beloved efforts will be consolidated and put into this law, one of which is GP. There are also tiered medical service system. So all these are already carried out, and in the process of carrying out these efforts, there can be some problems, such as issues in the drug management system. We try to make sure that we can do it right and put them in this law. So GP, as you mentioned, is a very good practice. It's also welcomed by our society and the Chinese people. So we have to make it into law in order to lead our society to be better in that regard. In the interest of time, we have to conclude the press event. Thank you, our interpreters, and all the dear leaders from different committees. And I also like to welcome you to our press event for the supervisory effort of NPC. Thank you.